Welcome to Coevolution, Humans Beyond AI. I'm Carlos Carpizo, author of At Risk of Greatness. As a recovering technology executive of over 25 years, I've been exploring the intersection of art and technology for the past 3 years, and if you're curious enough, you'll love what the guests on the show will share with us. Hey, welcome. Really excited to be here. Thank you for watching this, our second episode. On the first one, we covered the arts component. Now we're going to go into tech. And that's why I'm really excited to have here my friend, Freddy Vaca, transformative executive, investor, tech entrepreneur. There's a vast ocean on the tech space. So more specifically, he's in the cloud space. And it's been a while, Freddy, since we were last on stage for a panel with high tech. And I know that you've had some big career changes. So why don't you set us off by telling us what is exciting now for you?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It has been a while, but it's never too late to start again. So thank you for having me. So after 20 plus years in the contingent labor space, I've decided to really move into more of the cybersecurity, cloud, mission critical space that it's always fascinated me to be able to really understand what and where technology is going. So for the last year and a half, I've spent a lot of time both in the physical security space, but also in mission critical. And what does that mean? Well, with all the advancements of the cool things that are happening with AI, there's a very big need for infrastructure. So for the last year, I've spent about a year and a half of my time in Houston working with a technology group out there who recently acquired the HPE campus, 2 million square feet on 65 acres of nothing but technology playground, which is really fascinating. And we're really doing some cool stuff. We're looking at some things focused in renewables and energy, infrastructure, things around data center, mission critical infrastructure, dabbling a little bit in the blockchain. But we get some pretty interesting things happening over there. So we're really excited.
That's very awesome. And of course, one more reason that you're here with us is because you are a father of Gen Zs, just like me, and that has its nuances. And
yes.
Gen Zs are big; they're a third of the global population now. They will be 30% of the workforce, and almost as big as the campus that you just acquired is AI. Everybody's talking about AI, right. And why don't you tell us a little bit of your thoughts there, and what are you dabbling into on AI?
Sure. So when I think about AI and I think about technology and advancements in tech, it takes me back a little bit, because one of the things as a tech entrepreneur that I've always been fascinated with is this idea of automation, this idea of doing more with less. For years in the contingent labor space, we dabbled with chat bots and recruitment automation and outsourcing of different tasks. And we toyed around with RPA and a lot of different things. And when you think about where we've come from and where we are today, just the advancements, there was a few things that were missing, right? So we started with machine learning, we got into AI, we started giving computers information. They would give us back certain results based on data. And now we're giving them these tasks and allowing them to make decisions. Well, I think one of the things that really was hard, especially in the recruitment world, was trying to do 100% of the task with a machine. And what we found was that the last 20% still needed a lot of human interaction. And so what did that mean? That meant that we still needed people. Fast forward to today, where we have all this cool AI. AI really means a couple different things to me. And I think it's probably a little bit different just because of my background of what it means to me. So when I think about AI, I think about a lot of automation. I think about, from an entrepreneur perspective, just think about the things that it can do for entrepreneurs. You could launch a business completely in the cloud. You can do everything essentially, and it's all done by AI, right? You can It can respond to emails. It can interact with clients. It can interact with suppliers. It can collect, pay, deposit money. It can do everything for you. So when I look at it from an entrepreneur perspective, I really like it. When I look at it personally, I think about infrastructure. What does it mean for infrastructure? What does it mean for the type of things that we're going to need? When you think about it from an infrastructure perspective, AI really takes a lot more power. It takes a lot more resources for air. It takes a lot more different elements for just cabling for the amount of data that is going through this massive machine. So when you think about 2000 or 1999, 2000, your average kilowatt for a data center for, let's say, racks and so forth was 2 kilowatts. Fast forward to today, you're pushing with things like NVIDIA. People talk about NVIDIA all the time and its stock prices. You're pushing 50 kilowatts, kW, for just the efficiency of the machines. So you're talking about the traditional data center model has to really think about, how do we handle power? How do we handle cooling? How do we handle just data transfer rates? So this is where my brain kind of goes to, and you think about all the cool stuff that happens with AI. But for me personally, it's really exciting because it's just the advancements and how we're continuing to evolve with AI.
Absolutely, and thanks for sharing that. What brings solace to not only me and a lot of Gen Zers out there, but a lot of adults is something that you mentioned, which is AI cannot do it all by itself. Yes, it can do a lot, but is that 20% where humans are still involved, and that's what I'm trying to tell all Gen Zers out there, that they need to focus on 21st century skills. What's going to allow them not to compete with a machine, and for any adult for that matter. And to me, those are the 5 C's that are critical for the 21st century: curiosity, critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, and communication. And that's from a human aspect. You bring up another very good point, which is all the infrastructure, a lot of the things that we don't see, because we normally see, our smartphone and think that everything is included here. Sort of. There's a lot of things that they can do, definitely, but there's a lot of things that they cannot do, and that's it in the cloud somewhere where we don't see it. But it takes big investments in infrastructure. So which side do you want to talk about first? Do you want to continue, since you were on a roll on the infrastructure side, or you want to transition to the human side? And what is it that we can expect? You've taken us to what you've seen across a few years, but up to you. We'll love to hear both your inputs on it.
Sure. So I think that there's still quite a bit of automation and quite a bit of learning that we will have as applications are created and how things are rolled out. ChatGPT, for example. You can ask it how to do anything, and it'll tell you. It'll actually give you some pretty good answers. I think from a human perspective, if I had to answer your question specifically around the skills, it's that critical thinking, that decision making. There's one thing called intuition. And I think in every business and every role, there's intuition, human intuition. Some people call it your gut, right? Well, what does your gut tell you? You have a few people that say, well, that doesn't mean anything. There's no such thing. There's no gut feeling. And then there's only data, right? The data, what does the data tell you? And I think really as an entrepreneur, if I really had to think about it, I'm looking for balance. I'm looking for balance of both critical thinking, but balance with reasonableness. I'm thinking about how can we make decisions with data, make smart decisions. And so I think there's going to be a lot of involvement when it comes to what AI has in store. I think when you think about what AI can do, I think you have 2 different camps of people. You have, it's very dangerous, and it can be very efficient and effective. I think there's a happy median of both. But I do think that we've only looked at the tip of the spear when it comes to human interaction with AI yet. Secondly, when you talk about infrastructure, you talk a lot about resources. We talk a lot about power. We talk a lot about cooling. We talk a lot about investment. AI is very powerful. It consumes a lot, but it also makes us more efficient when it comes to how much data can be processed, how it can interpret data. It can be a very powerful tool, particularly in the anything that we can automate, anything that we can regulate, anything that we can take tasks and have it do it for us. So I think it won't replace humans, at least in my opinion. In my humble opinion, I could be wrong. But I think it will certainly help around not just efficiency, but automation.
No, I totally agree with you. And I'm an optimist just like you. And absolutely, I don't think it will replace us humans as long as, and I love the word that you use, intuition, as long as we develop that intuition.
That's right.
To me, that falls back to the arts, the touchy-feely that, even in business school, we're told, hey, don't forget about that qualitative aspect. Yeah, quantitative and the data, that's one thing. And it's great to have more data and be able to make decisions or inform decisions. But that intuition will always be there because we're human. We're not a machine. Machines are making decisions based on data, but we're not. And they're not making decisions based on intuition because they don't have it. And even if we were to reach artificial general intelligence, in our lifetime, which I'm not sure it will happen, then machines are not going to have that intuition. They don't have those emotions. They can somehow generate emotions in us, but we cannot let them fool us in thinking that they do have emotions. That's my take. So one more thing we agree on. That's awesome. Hopefully the rest of the viewers here agree with us as well. And if you don't, then that's perfectly fine. We are, as you said, we're just scratching the surface, and there's a lot that we can do. The one thing that I like to tell everybody is focus on how you're going to use it responsibly to advance our human condition. Because like any technology, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. It depends on the spin we put on it. And I think that's very, very important. Let's advance our human condition. Do you agree?
I agree. I think it's fun. I have 4 daughters, right? So 4 daughters with sumo amounts of technology. And so I think that, if I had to think about this, and I quite often do, is think about the environment in which I was raised in. Our biggest technology advancement was a pager. And then learning how to write words when you would flip the pager upside down with numbers, right? So that was the advancement of our technology. And now you have kids with access to the world. And so when you think about these devices and you think about, you said responsibility, how much is enough? How much is too much? How much responsibility should they be allowed to? What do we not want them to see? But then I ask myself the question, if I don't teach them or I don't show them, society is going to do that for you if you don't do that with them. I think the other thing to consider too is how much should they have? How much should they be exposed to? Should you expose them to, some things that, that they're going to see, whether you want them to see it and they see it where or where you don't know. So I think this idea of raising children in this century, raising children with all this technology, it's a head scratcher for me too. I'm not really sure what to do just yet.
It's a conundrum, and here's a plug for a good friend of mine that I interviewed for my book, Tyler Derman, and he has a great book out there called Counterintuitive, and he gives very concrete examples on how to deal with teenagers these day and age, and raising them is counter to our intuition. That's for sure. Can you tell us more about the needs of the infrastructure and what can maybe in particular Gen Zs expect out of this, because they are all and rightfully so concerned about the environment, and the planet that we're leaving for them and future generations. What can you share with them in particular about how even when investing you're being mindful of that environment and the next generations?
Yeah. So when I think about when we talk about the mission critical space, that is, we talk about data centers specifically. We talk about how can we monetize the amount of space. So in a traditional data center, when you look at the amount of space, think of it like real estate, right? You have a box, and that box you input certain things. And so what ends up happening is how many places can you put inside a data center while maintaining, throughput, while maintaining cooling, while maintaining power, while maintaining efficiency. And so when you think about it that way, I always think about renewable energy. I think about how can we be efficient. But I also know the realities of what we need to power these devices, just the amount of sheer power, the amount of cooling, the amount of cabling. I mean, this is getting really, really deep. But when you think about it from that perspective, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity in what is to come. So when you think about electrical engineering, when you think about network services, when you think about applications, when you think about the Internet of Things, I mean, there is just a overabundance of opportunity. And if I had to put my finger on just one thing, I'd really work on the infrastructure side, where how can we be more responsible with power? It is not uncommon, but in the mission critical space, you have to have what we call production power, and you have to have backup power, and it is a requirement. Why? Because you mentioned something of your phone, right? What people don't realize is, in order to keep all these applications running, you have to have multiple sources of power, right? So when you talk about 105-degree weather in Texas, where we are today, and starting to creep up to 100, and you talk about AC, and you talk about brownouts and rolling blackouts and all these critical things, there is going to be a need for more infrastructure. We are not. One thing that people don't realize is, as we get more technologically advanced, we look for ways to do more with less infrastructure, but we're going to need more infrastructure.
Absolutely. And I think that mission critical term is relative.
Yeah.
Because going back to what you pointed out as, the start of our technology and the pager, maybe that was mission critical for us at some point in time, when we already discovered the inverted letters to send a cool message.
That's right.
But we were not thinking, immediate interaction. You knew that there was a delay. You knew that things would happen. Mm-hmm. This day and age, yes, we can see mission critical, a connection with a self-driving car, because if it's self-driving, then it better not lose connectivity, so it doesn't cause an accident. But for Gen Zers, mission critical also means a lot of different things. Are they going to have immediate access to their response from their friends and the likes, and that's good and bad. But what do you define mission critical in light of your daughters as well?
So for my personal mission critical, I need to know where my children are immediately. I need to know right now. That's mission critical to me. But then from an entrepreneur perspective, if you think about what your customers require from you, if you think about the amount of data that you need access to, just recently, I shouldn't say recently, but if you think about how you can deliver now, think about now you can get a contract, you can digitally sign that contract, you can save it to your phone, you can save it to the cloud, you can email it to somebody, you can do all these things that you never thought possible. I mean, a fax, right? We used to talk about a fax machine. It was crazy because you used to think that things used to come on a fax machine and they'd come on this roll of paper, thermal paper, and you'd have all these different things. Well, now you just, you have emails, you have all your attachments in the cloud. I mean, you could essentially run your entire business from your cell phone. And in some cases, many do. And that is an advancement that I believe is good. But it takes a lot of infrastructure to do that. The big cloud providers are looking for ways to increase that throughput every day. How can we be better? How can we monetize costs? Right? Because these things are very expensive. The OpEx in running these mission critical applications on your phone, on your tablet, these things cost a lot of money, right? So you've seen some stock prices go up here recently. Well, there's a reason they're going up, right? It's simply because we're moving in that direction.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Uh, so we're getting towards the end of our time here. Um, is there anything in your mind that you would want to share with the audience that I have not given you the opportunity to?
No, I've enjoyed the conversation. We've covered a lot. I think, really for me, you said something that really spoke to me. And what it was is, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think what ends up happening is sometimes we mischaracterize the negative things that the technology can do. Yes, it can be used as a weapon if you're not careful. You see all these new applications that put people's faces on other people, and you look at them and you say, wow, that looks almost real. Well, one day someone's going to get in trouble, I'm sure of that, and we'll have to deal with that when we get there. But I think if I had one thing to really think about, it would be the amount of good that can be done with a technology, if used properly, I think is immeasurable. When you think about advancements in medicine, when you think about advancements in productivity, when you think about advancements in food, water, infrastructure, there's just so many things that I think we can do better with by being able to really lean on the technology. So don't be afraid of it. I think it's if used properly, I think we can benefit quite a bit.
Totally agree. Embrace it. And it's, even with generative AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Bard or something else, we need to let, in my opinion, young adults know that it's all right to use it, because they're either replacing some repetitive tasks or they're augmenting our cognitive abilities.
Sure.
And if we're using and teaching them how to use it responsibly and freeing up their time and energy to do more productive, critical thinking and creative thinking, then absolutely, I'm very hopeful for what that will bring to you, to us, and to all humanity out there. Any parting thoughts, Freddy?
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. If you can lean on the technology, I think there's a great happy medium. Yeah, I think so.
Love it. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much for being here with us. And hopefully we can have you again here soon.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.